Today we're going to talk a little bit about the Activity Center Service Badge, which is an activities badge for explorers. Um, you'll see here that this is the requirements. There's another slide as well. And while it does seem quite extensive, don't get put off by the 5 days here. Chances are, if you've been on a weekend camp, or perhaps a few of them, you will have done what, quote unquote work might be for an explorer, which is mostly helping to set up and take down activities and things of that nature. So if you've done that for at least 5 days, which again can be, for example, 2 or 3 different weekend camps, for example, and it can be in a group, district, county, area, or national scout activity center or campsite. As it says here, I'd focus on campsite. Activity center is a very specific term, whereas a district campsite is something that everybody will know and have been to. As says here, help the warden manager however they need you. In reality, if you're there with your Explorer Scout leader or your group scout leader or something like that, I'd say that sort of counts as well, really, because you're helping to maintain the campsite and helping to keep the activities running, which is one of the warden's duties anyway. Second requirement here is to explain the maintenance needed for essential campsite equipment and do a demonstration if you can. This is kind of self-explanatory. Maintenance needed for essential campsite equipment can be a number of things. Gazebo tents, how to patch gazebo tents, that'll stand you in good stead if you're doing any of the Duke of Edinburgh's awards. I've seen people have to patch their tents before during a Duke of Edinburgh's award expedition because of different fire embers falling on top of their tent from a adjacent campsite or adjacent camping group that obviously burns a hole into the top of the tent. So learning that kind of thing is quite nice. But equally, there can be a whole host of different things. But really, I'd say that learning just one piece of equipment is probably good enough for this badge. And it's always down to your Explorer Scout leader's discretion anyway as to when they give you this badge. Moving on, we have the final slide here, which is pretty simple. It looks like a lot, but it's just choose 4 of these. Basically, it's just helping to run the campsite and help maintain it. Making a booking for someone wanting to use a site. Before we go any further, by the way, if you are curious about your Chief Scouts Platinum or Chief Scouts Diamond awards, or even your Chief Scouts, King Scouts award, if you are looking at doing a residential towards your Duke of Edinburgh's awards for that, being a warden, a volunteer warden on a campsite, actually counts very easily towards that, and being that was a residential experience because you'll be staying over at the campsite in the warden's lodge. Of course, if you are looking to do some volunteering as well, you can volunteer to help around and improve a campsite. And if you're an explorer and you're looking to do, for example, your Scouts of the World Award when you get into network, it may be good to focus on this activity badge to try and build those relations with your local scout campsite. As we get back to these, do the 4. Show how to restore a camping area after use, including sowing grass. Really, all this means is how to sweep for litter, and the fact that if tents are up for a very long time, the grass underneath them can turn brown. Sowing grass is kind of sounds like a lot, but scattering grass seeds tends to be what it boils down to. So don't get too put off by this. The next step here is preventing freezing pipes bursting in winter. Even if you aren't huge into scouting activities, and this is basically a life skill. If you ever intend on moving out and having your own place eventually, knowing how to prevent freezing pipes is a huge deal. Water damage can totally wipe out a house or a residence and cause you to be liable for a lot. So while you're at a campsite, they will have a lot of understanding of this, and it can be actually quite nice to talk to the warden or the manager of the campsite about how they mitigate this, because it's a very real issue that affects a lot of people. Next, we have the importance of clean toilets. Really, as an explorer, you should understand hygiene, although obviously, as you become an adult, things like that, it does change in terms of what you have to do. But obviously, clean toilets is a general sort of health hazard not having clean toilets, and it can increase infections and things like that. Very, very easy to do this though. There's basically just a free tick off on this list of 4. Chemicals, what to use, how to use them safely. This is quite broad. Really, it can be whatever chemical you use while you're on the campsite. Bleach is a very obvious one, although you have to be very careful with bleach. Even as an adult, a lot of people don't know that you're not supposed to mix cleaning products because they can form mustard gas and very nasty things that can actually cause you serious harm. So if you are trusted with chemicals on a campsite, please don't mess around with them because they can be, again, dangerous, and you're an Explorer Scout, so you should understand that already. How to unblock a drain, prevent further blockages. Again, regardless of if you are huge into scout activities, if you live by yourself, chances are that, well, it's inevitable that eventually a drain will block due to just hair and other bits and pieces getting into it. And if you don't unblock a drain, you can get flooding at the worst, and you can get stagnant water at best. And stagnant water obviously is a breeding ground for all kinds of nasty things, so it's worth learning. Next, we have the need for good site drainage and keeping ditches clear. If you're intending on ever owning a huge amount of land, like a massive garden or whatever the case might be, you'll need to understand drainage, because otherwise your land will flood. And especially if you're in a certain area of the country that's more prone to flooding or has a recent history of flooding, knowing how to keep good drainage on land and property is again a very good skill if you're ever intending on being a homeowner or anything like that in the future, because you don't want your home to flood, and a lot of water damage can occur from that. And finally, we have how to dispose of refuse and use an effective recycling system. Hopefully you should understand this already. I will mention that for commercial and large-scale recycling, it's a little bit more complex than just the sort of like 3 different bins your council might have at your home address. But really, it's not difficult to do this. Again, it's a very easy one to tick off of these 4. So to summarize, this is a very easy one to do towards things like your residential for your Duke of Edinburgh's awards. I will also mention as well at this point that if you talk to the warden about this and what might be able to be changed in future, this can earn towards your U-Shape award, which is one of the rarer awards you can get in your section of scouting. Not many explorers out there with the U-Shape award. That's everything though. Hopefully that's been useful. Thank you.